The meeting of the Dudley Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It is Wednesday, September 13th. It is 7 p.m. We're at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School Library. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our regular meeting on Wednesday, August 16th.
So moved. Second.
Okay.
We're out of sample.
Yeah. Do I have any discussion on that? No? Okay. All in favor? And I know Mary was not here last time. Kathy, are you in favor? Okay. Motion carries 3 to 1 abstention. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of our executive session on Wednesday, August 16th.
So moved.
No, because she wasn't here. Discussion, any discussion?
I do have a correction,
Okay.
in language correction, so I don't know if we need to table that until executive session tonight.
Doesn't, yeah, doesn't affect it.
Does it affect the content, or just like grammatical stuff?
It's a language change, which I don't think
Well,
changes
we'll
it
table.
dramatically.
We can do an executive session.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll table
that'd
it
be
for executive session. Okay. Approval of the warrant. Sandy, this evening, we do have a warrant, okay? Citizens Forum, do I have anyone this evening that would like to speak with us? Come forward, state your name and town. No, you can sit.
Microphone.
Go ahead. Microphone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me? Hi, I'm David Smolsky. I've been in touch with the board via email and mail. My topic was about speeding on Center Depot Road in Charlton, where we live. I just wanted to thank the board for your support of the topic. We've gotten some attention in the town, which is great. I noticed an increased police presence during the first week of school. Started around 7:30 in the morning, and also saw the police present in the afternoon some days during the first week. So I feel like the school board's support enabled that to happen. I went to the Board of Selectmen's meeting last night and spoke during their open forum, and was encouraged that speeding and public safety on our roadways in town is a topic of concern. There was talk about establishing some kind of a civilian traffic committee. I don't know what it entails yet, but I'm encouraged that the dialogue is happening. And in closing, I just wanted to say thank you to the board here. I feel like you're part of the solution, and the visibility that you're helping to create is very helpful.
Thank you for positive feedback. Thank you
You're
so
very
much.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that. And now, student spotlight, and we have Jake here this evening and Mr. Chap. Okay, you will introduce them.
So we have Jake Krabiak, who's who's really the nucleus behind this project with Mr. Duchamp. And then Jack Dombrowski's going to talk about something else. So I really want to focus on the point of this is it's really going to give you a glimpse of the student-driven work that's being done. This is particularly in the engineering and construction classes that we have here. So I'm going to turn it over to them, but it was really student-driven from the very beginning to really the very end, where classes are going to build these dugouts. But I'm going to let these guys talk about it.
This particular project started, I really don't remember how it started. When it was Mr. Provost, who was the acting AD, had come to us and he said, "What about designing dugouts?" I think that's how it really started. And I had Jake in my juniors, he was a junior in my CAD 2 class, and he said, "Jake, what about designing dugouts?" So we started right from the beginning. We went outside, we measured all the fences, and he came in and he used Autodesk Revit, and he started designing things. He actually went down and interviewed Mr. Desto, interviewed Mr. Chaplin, And then you got a bunch of ideas from even they're done, the baseball coach. We got some ideas, and we put a lot of it down, and all of a sudden it started snowballing until we actually built another class for World of Construction, and now that class is going to be building them this fall. And it just kind of snowballed, and we didn't expect anything like this, and it was this was May. Last May it started. And Jake did all the designing. He's done all the estimating on how much it's going to cost, how many studs we need, how much material we need. It's all been him. It was more independent. I would just say, do this, figure this out. Anything?
Well, yeah,
Anything to
like
add?
one day I was just working on my independent study project, and then Mr. D was like, let's go, we're going outside. And then he didn't tell me what it was for, and we just started measuring things, and then we came back in, and he was like, all right, start designing it. And then I started that day, and then I got the designs approved by some people, and then we made them on the 3D printer. And now for the class to build it, I made a scale model so they know what we're actually going to be building. And that also helped us get an accurate count of how many studs and how much this was going to cost and things like that.
So the class is actually gonna build it inside, and then when they're finished, they'll transport out. They're gonna build
Portable?
four, so one at a
Portable?
time.
Well, it won't be portable, because these are just concrete piers, but we're gonna make it modular, because our time, we have 42 minutes of class. By the time we went out there, we'd have 15, 20 minutes getting all the tools out. All right, time to come back in. Where if we build it in 8-foot sections inside the shop, put it on one of the trucks and back, drive it out there, put it on posts, and it'll be, I think if we get everything done inside, it'll be erected in 2 or 3 days.
It's a nice design. You did a good job.
Thank you.
Nice, good
Oh,
job.
there was a lot of research. I mean, he
Yeah,
researched a
sure.
lot
He did a good
online,
job.
different dugouts, different shapes. Me and my son, this summer, going to different baseball games. We looked at different styles and came to this basic style.
So where will it go? Is there a dugout out there now that's like,
There is nothing out there.
there is nothing?
There is nothing out there.
There's just a fence,
Right.
and we designed these around the fence.
Right,
So,
so
we're
the
not gonna have
fences
to
are
get
still
new
gonna be there.
fences.
Right.
And there will be 4 of them. We'll have 2 on the baseball field,
Oh,
2 on the
really?
softball
Oh,
field.
wow.
And that saved us a lot of money by
Yes.
designing.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice job.
Yeah, they did an incredible job, and we're looking to get some storage in there as well, so
Yeah,
that'll
make
be
it
some
worthwhile.
add-ons, so,
Yeah,
yeah.
while you're doing it.
And
Very
then,
nice.
Jack is gonna kind of talk a little bit about, hopefully some of you guys can look at. Yeah, go ahead,
Sorry to
Jack.
interrupt. Jake, I want you to stay here for just a second. Jake, when did you come to Dudley Middle School? 8th grade?
Yeah, 8th grade.
And I've known Jake very, very well since 8th grade. And I want to tell you that to see what you have become and who you are, I haven't been really any prouder of anybody in my educational career, which spans 25 years. We're very proud of you. I hope you continue to finish this senior year incredibly strongly. I just hope that maybe before you sit down, you can show the committee some of the renderings you made.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's really impressive. In fact, I thought about getting a frame for it to put in my office.
Mr. Desto, if you ever have time,
Oh,
to
God,
ask
that's
Jake
all
about his
nice.
first day in the
Oh,
class.
nice.
Ask him about that day.
I'll do that off camera.
Yeah, that's not a camera
Do you
thing.
live in Dudley?
Yes, I do.
And Jake's also quite a musician, but we won't get into just making this into a show about him, but,
Jake show.
yeah.
What's gonna be your building grade?
Oh, nice.
And these are the 3D
Yeah.
printed ones. These are off the 3D printed.
Oh, really? Wow.
So like,
My
it's like
goodness.
6 inch.
I'm gonna make all my kids Christmas presents on that.
Real cheap.
Some 3D print.
Letters that we're gonna have a
And Mr. Ducharme, even though you're a very humble man, and Jake did do most of the work, it does take a special thought process to allow him to do that, so we thank you too.
Jeff, where do you want to go to school?
I'm still torn, but my top choices right now are Roger Williams University and University of Hartford.
We couldn't-
Worcester Polytechnic.
No, I want to get my master's degree in
Yeah,
architecture.
we
so
finally
it's
could
really hard to find schools because there's only 49 schools in America that are accredited by the
He's actually
NAAB, which is the
designed these,
National
we're gonna
Architectural
do it the
Accreditation
same
Board.
way.
So the
So I only
two
have
you want-
49 to choose from.
I'm them with that.
I know.
I was
What
gonna
two
be
do you
ambitious
want?
and ask for
My top two are Roger Williams
You
and
can.
University of Hartford.
My kids have already
I'm
done
also
it.
applying
My
to
kids have
National
already done it.
Honors, Mass
We'd
College
like
of
to see
Architects,
that.
which I actually took today, and Keene State.
That's one of the.
Well, I wouldn't
one
want
of
to
the
be a part of
projects
any
in my
club
CAD
that won't
2
have you,
class.
so
Design,
good luck with all
choose
that.
it. design
You're
in
welcome.
addition to the building.
It doesn't mean you don't have to come to school on time tomorrow.
Yeah, so Roger Williams would welcome you right now. So Jack is going to talk about another student-driven project around creating a virtual tour for our website of the school for 8th graders or 7th graders or whoever.
Yeah, so I have the tour on these iPads, if you want to take a look, but I also have it up here too. So with my freshman class, I was really trying to shape
look at that,
how
it's right
to
there.
increase the Shepherd Hill experience and come up with some sort of virtual reality tour where they could look at the school, see rooms, see buildings, and be more comfortable when they first come here. So this was one of the first things I did last year. So you can take the tour on the iPad if you want, you just have to open it up. But this is also available, I could share it online, it's not shared publicly yet, for kids to play around with their virtual reality. And they had a blast taking photos outside and in the classroom, but if you're on your iPad, you can kind of scroll around and you can see an entire spherical view of what this is looking at. Right now it's just kind of going around, but you know, the point was for them to come up with a story. On your first day, when you walked in through these doors, what did you wish you had known? So you could be more comfortable and you know, just really own that first week of school. And so they came up with different stories. Most of them were going in through the doors over here, the main office, going to the main office, the guidance area, down hallways to the CAF, the library. And so they do use virtual reality with that, and they create hotspots and they can go into the school. And so it brings you in, and you can look around and make sure you get an idea of what that looks like. You know, if you have to go to the main office, they put in more information about you go to the main office to bring a note in the morning, or if you need to change buses and get a bus pass and things like that. So they can go around and look at that. You get a lot of pictures of the athletic field, and so they really like going out there and looking at, because they're all super excited about athletics, and they can see what that looks like. But they also have a really good time taking pictures and looking at them with Google Cardboard. So Mr. Ducharme has the Google Cardboard. So what happens is once they take the photo, they can actually put that up to their face and like look around and not have to scroll. It's like they're actually there. So we've been experimenting a little bit more with that as a final project for the freshmen.
Karen, is that the same, did you
Yep.
see that, is that the exact same thing?
Same exact thing.
Yeah, you just sit and you can be like in the dugout with them, speaking of dugouts.
They give you they want the $150
Yeah,
Yeah,
but,
headphones, you can $15 Google Cardboard that's got the kids
Wow.
that have glasses.
Wow.
And we have some 3D printed ones too, so some kids, we bought a couple and then we 3D printed more, so we can see what that, kids will design it. How do you make the viewfinder? So,
Wow, it's amazing.
they had a lot of fun with this project because they can take the photo and actually see it afterwards. Their eyes light up when they're like, virtual reality. I've seen that on TV, but I've never done it. And the technology is moving forward very quickly. So when we started in June, it's changed today because I was moving around things today. I'm like, whoa, the app looks different, and even trying to access it on Google Cardboard is a little different too. So they really enjoyed this project.
It's amazing.
Yeah, don't laugh at me, but is this on our website or can it be on our website?
It can be shared
Yeah.
on the website, yep, so it's all things that can be made public. One of the big requirements of the project is that I don't want them taking pictures with people in it.
Right.
Of course, for our instances, I
It
wanted
can be
you
identified,
guys
sure.
to see that. So it's hard during the school day to go down the hallway or, you know, in the gym when they're running around, they're doing their speed laps, because Mr. Lindstrom is making the kids run as fast as possible. They're going around. And there's all these kids, and you'll get like half legs,
Yeah, yeah.
or just their neck. So that's why it's hard to take pictures during lunch, you know, so they can see everything. A lot of kids had to explain, you know, what side lunches were, because they're really worried about food. They want to know where to go.
Very important to
So
them,
they
yes.
explain that in their story. They add a hotspot. They can record their voice over it or put a text message in. So.
That's amazing.
really nice, boy, isn't it nice?
And, you know, the cafeteria looks awesome
I
in that
know,
picture
it's
right
beautiful.
Must have just been through there.
there. Yeah. So, we gotta get that on the website, absolutely, that's really cool, thank you.
Yeah, it is nice.
That's really good.
Thanks a lot, Jackie.
Thank you. And your iPad.
Oh, yeah. Go back to my room.
Great stuff.
That was great. We really enjoyed that. Very nice.
Question, is that was really,
That was an awesome project. Is that something that could be expanded to something that we could use in our presentations regarding the status of the building?
I was thinking the same thing, yeah.
I don't know if MSBA allows you to do a digital entry.
But it looks too good.
Well, but you, conceptually, we could still look at some of the things that we looked at when we toured, which was the wiring, the size of the buildings, the labs, the things like that, as to whether or not,
But it does look great.
Their process is very rigid.
Yeah.
So right now, I don't even think that you can do that. But if it comes, it's got to come to that point at some point. But I was thinking more about, being able to inform the community.
Absolutely.
With video, because they can't all come up here to tour.
Right.
But I mean, it does look great.
It does look good.
So I
yeah.
don't know,
Oh, we
you
could
have
do it
to
before they
focus
clean,
on- Step
But
in.
to add to that, they come after our kids are already out. So if we could maybe take a tour to, you know what I'm saying, where they see everything nice, fresh, painted, like you're saying, and that does look terrific. But if we could do it while kids are in the classrooms, just to see, they can
Yeah.
get a better.
Well, we could be
Vision.
strategic about it and make sure that we're documenting the places that we want to
Right.
document, which are
Right.
generally behind the curtain.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
but is it possible to do something like that for our other schools as well? Is there a possibility of doing some type of senior project or expanded project that we could do it for each of our buildings?
Yeah, I was thinking that it could be a student-driven project, absolutely. Transportation, we can work that out, I'm sure.
It's great work.
Anybody else?
And then we'll put it on the YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Okay, communications, Mr. Desto?
I do have a couple tonight, Mrs. O'Coin, that I received within the past couple of weeks, and I'm going to read them because I think that they're very powerful for different reasons. But the first one, Mr. Smolsky came up to thank the committee, and it's too infrequent that you hear that, and I want you to hear this. So this is, it was addressed to me, but then it says, "Dear members of the school committee." So this is, the intent is that you hear this. And I'll leave out the last name, but I'll just say it says, "Our son Daniel went off to college last weekend. Before he left, he said thank you to his teachers and his coaches. I wanted to thank all of you." Smiley face. "Our family participated in school choice. We live in a neighboring town that I'll leave out. Thank you for allowing Dan to be part of your school district. Because of that decision, he was able to take the AP classes that our town didn't offer. He graduated with 16 AP credits. The math science teachers were so great teaching him, he was able to earn an academic scholarship to Rensselaer. He also made their cross-country track team, thanks to the efforts of the Shepherd Hill coaches. He never ran cross-country or track before coming to Shepherd Hill. Thank you for the opportunities and open doors coming to Shepherd Hill brought. He mentioned that he wished he could have had a 5th year at Shepherd Hill because there were so many more classes that he wanted to take. Our daughter Caitlin just started her freshman year, and we're thankful to continue being a part of the Charlton Dudley community." Signed by the parents.
That was very nice.
Very nice. And I remember that young man when he came in, and he's a special kid. I mean, he's a wonderful, wonderful kid. But it goes to show, I want to make the statement more, not so much about school choice as I do about just the opportunities that exist here, and how, when they're taken advantage of properly, can lead to such great things. My next one is addressed to Dr. Chaplin, but it's from the Massachusetts Envirothon. It says, "As a new school year begins, I'm writing to offer belated congratulations to the Shepherd Hill Regional High School Envirothon team for their hard work and success at the 2017 Mass Envirothon. In addition to placing 4th in the current issue competition, they were one of 12 teams across the entire state completing the requirements for the Mass Envirothon Community Research and Community Action Awards for their work in 2017. And I just want to name the participants of the team from last year. They were students Zachary Abate, Eric DeLeon, Ray Hensel, Isabella Johnson, Sarah Kalinsky, Jacob Leo, Lindsay Youngberg, Emily Novak, Billy Porter, and Jordan Van Minos, and the team was coached by teachers Justin Savaggio and Ray Sullivan. So again, they were one of only 12 teams in the entire state to earn enough, we'll call them credits for lack of a better word, to be recognized with a Community Research Award and a Community Action Award. So essentially they show that they've made a solution to a real problem, and then they've done their community service to try to teach the community about it. It's pretty cool stuff. And this team just continues to thrive this year under the leadership of Mr. Savaggio. So I wanted to point that out as well.
Good to hear. That's great. Do any members have communication this evening?
I had some communication through social media for parents regarding recess at the middle school, which I did bring the issue to Mr. Desta's attention, but Dudley did a pilot program last year for recess at middle school, which was very positive, and it became a permanent part of their schedule. And Charlton parents were questioning why, if it was a successful pilot at Dudley Middle School, it did not transfer over to Charlton Middle School.
Good question. I actually do, in talking to Mr. Starshevsky, Mr. Sturgis, who was there last year with Dudley Middle, and Mr. Packard, there are like seriously legitimate reasons for why. So first of all, this was but kind of / still is a pilot program to see. Lunch is only 20 minutes long. We know that. We've heard you know, that as something that people have not been happy with for years and years, particularly the students. Although at the middle school level, 20 minutes generally seems to be enough time. So we have, as everybody knows, we have time on learning requirements through the DESE. The long and the short of it is that as secondary schools, we have to have 990 annual hours on learning. We have currently about 1,015 if we don't do 2-hour delays, you know, recess and those things. So the additional 5 minutes after lunch at Dudley Middle School is a great thing for kids. Nobody's going to argue with that. It puts us down to about 1,000 hours, so 5 2-hour delays, and we're in violation. The biggest problem is not that, though. The biggest problem is that at Dudley Middle School, geographically, the kids can go right from the cafeteria, and where those books are is where the recess is, because they're right out onto the patio, and there's an area there they can run around. At Charlton Middle School, my feeling is if you have 5 extra minutes, it takes you 3 to get to this first safe location down in the fields, and then another whatever you'd be turning around and coming right back. So the logical thing would be, why don't we do it longer than 5 minutes? But if you gave it just 3 more minutes, now you're in violation of the time on learning. So our best hope, nobody at Charlton Middle School is against doing recess. It's just a matter of being able to work out the barriers that are in the way right now, largely related to geography and time on learning. If there is some speculation that time on learning requirements could be relaxed when a new commissioner comes in. It's a possibility. Relaxed is not the right word. Changed if a new commissioner comes in. If that happens, we're definitely going to be willing to look at it. But this is an ongoing thing and not like a set in stone type of thing. And it kind of brings up a bigger issue about the idea that we are a regional district, so we have 2 and 2 schools, sister schools, and then 1 high school. And so I hear a lot, you know, say at Mason Road School they do such and such, and why not at Charlton, and vice versa. And you know, what we try to do is make sure that when kids are coming out of a school, they've had the same basic opportunities, the same curriculum, the same resources, and the same chances to be successful. There are going to be subtle differences between schools. That's never going to change. And I think because of whether it's geography or whatever it might be, there's always going to be those little differences in our schools. And if you really looked deep enough, you'll find that you like some at some schools and you like other things at other schools, but they each have their real strengths, you know. And so it's something that we're still looking at. My kid is in 5th grade there now, and believe me, recess is the only subject I got an A in. So you know, nobody has to convince me. I know it's good for kids, and we're still looking at it, but it looks like it's been an insurmountable thing as of right now at Charlton Middle. But if those 2 things fall into place, really the time on learning being the big one, we might be able to make it happen.
Well, recess is a good thing, but not too long. I think, you know,
short and then back in.
Is middle school 5 to 8 is considered secondary? I know
Yeah,
7 to 12 is, I mean,
we
you can't
had
get
to-
out of it that way, that it's not secondary?
I don't think so. We had to make a choice back when the middle
Okay.
schools were made, and it's considered a secondary school because you're under one roof. That's worth looking at,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, could you cut the lunch to 15, or is that too short? And then they'd have those extra 5 there, or would that be too short to serve all the kids?
Well, I mean,
I mean, if you
it
take
depends on
away-
the kid, I guess. I think it's too short, because if you're going through the line
Yeah, I
and
don't know,
everything.
it must-
think
it's a big
I
school
think
too.
the general feedback that I hear is
You
that
need
it's
20
already
minutes.
too short.
So
Yeah,
you
it's
couldn't
already
take
too
away from
short.
the 20.
So in order to provide a recess, we'd probably be looking at extending the school day to do that, and I don't know what that does to the whole transportation thing.
The other thing we could look at, it would require some serious creativity, would be to find a way to count that time as time on learning,
Like part of your phys ed?
or something like that. But I don't know how we could do that, because the teachers are the supervisors, and, you know, to make that into like a subject, I don't know. But, you know, it's worth a discussion, I suppose. It definitely is a good thing for kids to blow off steam.
Yeah.
I know, you know, my son's, I don't want to talk about my son all night, I promise, but it fits here because he's brand new to that school, and it's such a big school that, you know, just walking sometimes from the 5th grade area to the cafeteria, back to there, that's an exercise in itself, but, for those little legs, but it's, listen, I've heard the same kind of concern, and I empathize, because it was my favorite time of day as a kid, and
Was there some legislation that might make it mandatory in Massachusetts that everyone has recess? I think I heard that
It's in the,
recently.
it's in the
it's a bill.
consideration.
Yeah, so that
But
could make
but
it-
it's elementary.
Only elementary.
Yeah, the
Oh,
bill
okay.
right now is only elementary.
Okay.
But still, I mean, there's a lot of different things we can look at. It's been tough to overcome, though.
There's a lot of pros and cons though about recess for the middle school and high school.
Well, high school, yeah. I think there's more pros than cons if you can make it work
Yeah.
with the schedule and the geography of your playground, your building, but, so I guess that's all I can say.
So, look into it.
We are,
On
you know, we absolutely are, and this is coming to our attention again here at the beginning of the year with a new principal at Dudley Middle. It's caused more discussions, and so it's always a good thing to keep talking about things and keep them on the front burner.
I appreciate hearing the reasoning behind
Yeah.
it, because I think it helps parents to understand why sometimes things happen and they
Yeah.
don't happen. It's not desire, it's sometimes
There's a
barriers
reason.
that can't be overcome.
And I had good practice, because when I was at one of the Meet the Teacher nights, somebody asked me about it, and I was able to say, well, I actually have an answer to this
Good.
tonight, which I wouldn't have had 3 days ago. But it's a legitimate thing, no doubt about it.
Okay, any other members for communications? No? Do you have something?
I had brought this to the attention of the committee, and I know just in informal session about the professional development opportunity for regional school committee members and administration to attend. And Stephanie was not here for
Do you want me to give her
for
this
it,
copy?
but no,
The yellow?
she can have that. I definitely would want to attend. It's 3 half-day sessions, but I'm interested in attending.
And if anyone else is, then they can
Right,
let Mr. Desto.
Right, it's no cost to attend, but it's a very thorough conversation on all aspects of regional schools, budget, finance, fiscal management, operation policy, implications with town budgets and all of that. But I think with our upcoming year, I think it would be a good conference to attend.
We're pretty much covering everything here.
Absolutely everything.
I mean, it's not leaving much to chance. September 19th, October 4th, and December 13th, 8:30 to noon, so only half a day.
I know, and then we can, if we can't make the 3, well, we could do 1 or 2.
It looks like they break them down into 3 separate sessions, 3
There's
separate
3
agendas.
separate, so there's no cost to attend, so if somebody signed up and maybe you were interested in day 2 or day 3, or I think just register and go for the days that you can. But they do provide a manual that we can then share as a resource as well.
I'll definitely go to the third one as it stands right now, and I'll let you know on the other 2. Because that third one seems to be what we're.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So just let us know.
Okay.
September 19th is the first one, so, but like you said, it's free, so.
Right. So just sign me up and make
Okay,
me able to
thank
do
you,
it.
Elaine, for bringing that to our attention.
Food's usually good there.
Yeah. I think I'll go.
Look at them at 12 followers.
Get there at 10 of.
Okay, that brings us to superintendent's report, Mr. Desto.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. Just a couple of things today. First, I want to thank the students first and the staff for what, from my perspective, has been a great start to the year. You never really know when you're the superintendent, but being out there in the buildings and just getting a general, you learn over the years to kind of get a feel for how things are going, and I feel like it's been the most positive beginning of the school year since I've been superintendent, all 4 years. You know, Travis Roy mentioned one of his big things on opening day was that when we bring positive energy to the schools as the adults, it makes all the difference for the students, and I've seen a real concerted effort from our staff to do that. So I want to publicly sort of say how much I appreciate that. I've seen a lot of people thinking outside the box, a lot of promising new staff, and I really appreciate that.
Can I just add, as a resident of Dudley Oxford Road, there's no traffic at 7:30. They must all get here on time. It's unbelievable.
So far, it's been
Compared
better.
to Mr. Chaplin over, Dr. Chaplin. There's no traffic on Dudley Oxford Road at 7:30. They're all here on time. It's unbelievable. Usually- you bet- It must be, because usually the line's back to like my house.
Right.
And there's no, yeah, I know it's early, but hey, you gotta start
On the
somewhere.
other side of that, Mrs. Cabala, I come in around anywhere between 7 and 7:10 after I put my kid on the bus. And there's been traffic at 7:05
yeah.
and 7:10.
Well, that's
so
what you want.
Not much, but a little bit.
No, it's amazing,
I'd
the
rather have
difference.
that. But if you haven't had a chance to check out our opening week's hashtag DC Great Start, and if you are on Twitter or you know someone who is, I think it's a real kind of video scrapbook of some of the really positive things that have happened at the start of the year, and so now our job is to just sustain that. Also want to mention that the Dudley Charlton Regional School District YouTube channel, the one that's been much spoken of over the past 3-4 months, is up and running. It has been for a little while now. The link is on the website, although you don't really need that. You just go to YouTube and then search Dudley Charlton Regional School District. Right now we only have our last 3 school committee meetings on, maybe 2 or 3 school committee meetings on there, but very soon it's going to have other events and other things there as well, and can serve as a really great tool for us to get our message out there this year. A couple more things real quick. First is I want to just remind everybody, I hope that you've received your invitation to the First Honors Dinner, one of the great events we have every year where some of our really hardworking kids are rewarded and our staff serves the meal to them. That's the 21st at 6:30, September 21st at 6:30. And finally, more for the public than the school committee, the Dudley and Charlton PTOs are sponsoring the Dudley Charlton Magic versus the Harlem Wizards on Sunday, September 24th, 5 to 7 o'clock. This is a joint effort between our 2 PTOs, so we would love to have all the support we possibly can. It's a great, we've done this a few times, it's a really nice event for kids. The kids get really fired up, it's interactive. Tickets are $12 in advance, and they can be found either at the Harlem Wizards site or at either of our PTO sites. So on our main page, if you go to Community, Dudley and Charlton PTO are on there, and you can get the link to the tickets right there, but they're $15 if you get them the night of the event. 12 in advance and 15 at the door. And I will not be playing this year. I played the last several times, but it's a young man's game, and I'll be coaching this time. So we're going to be running a 1-3-1 full court press on the Harlem Wizards with a bunch of teachers in the starting lineup. It's going to be great. That is all, Mrs. O'Coin.
Concludes the superintendent's report. Brings us to new business. District strategic plan update, Mr. Desto.
Thank you very much, Mrs. O'Coin. And if I may, I'm going to ask Mrs. Allen to join me up here, and we're going to just give you a very brief presentation on the plan for the plan, I guess, is what we're doing. So,
Mr. Dist, if I could just say that it's very hard here
Because it's a
from the
thing.
lower, so.
Mr. Chaplin, is it possible to get the air shut off? Appreciate it. Okay, so thank you. Sorry to change the alignment again. But this is going to be, again, very brief, just to give you an idea of what Mrs. Allen and I, we're really all the leaders in the group. The 17 of us met for 2 days at Nichols College this summer, as you know. This was a big part of what we had planned. So for September of, for this month and next month, really are going to be the big push to, I don't want to say create a completely new strategic plan, because I feel like we've had it as a living document, and I'm going to show you how living it's been in just a minute. But we want to review what's left from the plan, review what we have accomplished, see what still fits, what doesn't, and then where we want to go from here. So we also, by the way, just wanted to point out that we want to try this year, where the graduates walk through the elementary school. I think that's a really cool idea, and we're thinking about that for this year as well. But the point here is the kindergarten to graduate. So in our original plan, thank you, Mr. Chaplin, that was, as you know, covered 14 to 17, and we updated it a couple of times. We had 52 complete total objectives, and we only had 11 at the end that were still completely unaccomplished. Some of them we had, maybe made attempts at, but that's a pretty good rate, and that's because we stuck to it, and I think we let it drive the decisions that we made. So among the ones that were left undone that we'll look at as being possibly a part of, continuing to be a part of our plan, the resource officer in Charlton, the addiction crisis task force, which was initiated, but then really I didn't get enough traction. Publicity about our volunteer activities, incorporation of advisories and peer mediation for all students in grade 5 to 8. That's one of the ones where it was like very slightly partially implemented, but not completely. We did not establish a vertical alignment committee because we found a different way to be more effective. Extended before and after school academic learning programs. Class sizes, Lorinda and I decided to put in here, even though we've made some real efforts toward that. I put it in here because it's got to be ongoing. We definitely have smaller class sizes, 1 to 3, than we did before our last plan, but they're not where we wanted them to be exactly, so we've got to keep fighting for that. ELL liaisons, and that was because the mandate from DESE hasn't come down like we expected it to yet. And finally, revenue options about purchasing technology, as this committee knows, because you made the decision to lease equipment, and we've got a nice infusion of technology into our schools this year, but we have to keep it on the front burner. And then network data infrastructure is definitely going to be a primary objective in any plan that we have going forward. And at this point, I will turn it over to Lorinda. I will say, though, it was my idea to put 17 to 22 instead of 20. Ambitious, we can go 3 years if you want, but I thought 5 might be good this time.
So when we got together as an administrative team this summer, we were thinking about strategic plan and where do we go next and how do we change things. And just looking at how some other schools had done things, some schools that were cutting edge and some schools in some bigger cities and towns, cities and states outside of Massachusetts. And one of the things that schools are starting to do is to look at what they call a profile of a graduate and look at their strategic plan from what do we want our students to be when they leave our district and what do we need to put in place as action steps in order to accomplish that. So there were 3 main areas that we focused on: academic, personal, and interpersonal. And in each one of those categories, there were some competency areas or some skill sets that we looked at. And what we did is we put that all up on the website. We sent it out through Twitter and through email and notification systems on teacher blogs, however we could get it out there. We had several of our district administrators who were kind enough to go to open houses with Chromebooks set up so parents could do it there. And as of today, we have had 269 total responses. That was around 3 o'clock. I know Dean had a whole slew of them set up over at Charlton Middle School tonight, so I'll be interested to see when we're done, when we go back on, how those have been updated. But 77% of our responses were parents, 18% were teachers and staff, and then 4.5% were our community members. So one of the things we looked at were academic competencies. So we looked at, I'm going to actually start from the bottom and go up, some subject-specific So we wanted students to be able to have mastery of content. Again, that's something that we have talked administratively as far as there are a lot of state mandates, and we're actually driven by the state and by the Common Core to have certain standards for our academics. Critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation, media literacy, financial literacy, civic literacy, health literacy, environmental literacy, information communications and technological literacy, and then we had a write-in category of other. And what the parents came up with as far as their preferences for the top 3 skills or competencies they thought students should have leaving the district were pretty much right on target with when the administrators took the survey. Parents are feeling like critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and innovation, and then information, communications, and technological literacy are some of the key skills that our students are going to need to either be college or career ready, depending what they do when they leave here.
Mrs. Allen, sorry to interrupt you, just
No,
want to add
please
that
do.
the survey is still open until like the 22nd,
Until
is
the
it?
22nd.
So it's not, these are not final numbers, but this is where we're at as of tonight.
Then we looked at an area of personal competencies. What skills did we want students to have to be able to, again, go out into the real world and to be able to function as wonderful citizens representing the education that they've learned here? So flexibility and adaptability, initiative and self-direction, productivity and accountability, leadership, personal responsibility, resilience, being goal-directed, conscientious, knowing what it means to be a good citizenship, to be a good citizen, and then to have an academic mindset. And you can kind of see personal responsibility definitely was one of the key items that parents and our community were looking at for competencies. And again, these are some of the soft skills that employers are looking for, that you say, well, how do you fit them into a curriculum? And that's going to be part of what some of our next strategic planning action steps are, is, well, how do you teach a child to be personally responsible? How do we give them initiative and self-direction? What programs do we need to put in place? What supports do we give them? And again, you can see the ones that were in the lead. And then finally, interpersonal competencies, those skills of connecting with other people. Again, starting at the bottom, communication, collaboration, a global awareness of the world around them, social and cross-cultural skills, being able to know how to interact with people of other cultures or other abilities, teamwork, leadership, a quality of empathy, conflict resolution, that should say entrepreneurship, and then again, a category of write-in of other. And communication, conflict resolution, and teamwork were again the top 3 from parents, which any of us having being in the real world as adults, again, we know that those things are crucial to being successful.
Thank you. So as of right now, as you know from getting an invitation, which we have scheduled meetings on Thursday the 28th and then Thursday, October 4th. First one's here and the second one is at Charlton. We've invited 50 people-ish.
A little over 50.
A little over 50 people who represent, I think it says it here, administration, school committee, teachers, IAs from the district, college representatives, town officials, business reps, and parents. We did a few double dips, okay? So we got a couple of people who work at a college and our parents in the community or something like that. But these are the areas that are represented among the attendees. It is our expectation, although these things don't always go as you plan, that we'll have our first 2 meetings with the large group, and then we will break down into 3 smaller working groups that will do the nitty-gritty in smaller, more maneuverable groups between October 5th and whenever we target as a completion date. So we can move a little more rapidly after that. And that's pretty much it. Again, very important to note that none of this is finalized information. This is just where we're headed right now, what we're thinking. We're still taking input, and we're still really looking forward to the 28th when we hear what people are thinking out there. It's, as I look at these terms here today, and as I looked at them in the summer, I thought to myself how things have changed even in just 3 years. And the terms are all different, and what colleges and careers are looking for are slightly different, and we really gotta stay current and keep on staying flexible and maneuverable. So that's it. Certainly we'll answer any questions that we can answer, and go from there.
Mr. Dester?
Yes.
Is the strategic plan centered strictly around the profile of the graduate?
Well, that's something that would be up for debate. Right now, what we're looking at is that. We're looking at what is it that we want our graduates to be able to do, and how does that start when they're 4, and what does it look like at each grade level. But certainly, I'm like I said, it almost never goes exactly as you plan, and so we've got that many smart people in one room because with diverse, diverse looks at things, because we want to hear different types of things. So we're not married to anything that we showed you tonight 100%, and we'll just have to wait and see how it goes and what good ideas are brought up.
Any questions?
All right, well,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. I appreciate
Thank
the opportunity.
Okay, next item on the agenda is Director of Finance and Operations update. Mr. Matthews?
Thank you very much. I do have a couple of issues for the committee this evening. First, we start with the happy stuff, donations. The Charlton Elementary School received a donation of $84.45 from Planet Aid. Additionally, the Shepherd Hill Regional High School has received an anonymous donation to fund a spring international travel trip in 2018. The requirement of the donation is that someone who wants to go on the trip and enrolled in global studies but cannot go due to financial reasons.
That's great. That's nice.
Mrs. Perangeli has indicated that there is one student who meets these qualifications, and she's working with the donating family
That is
to ensure that their approval of that student. But that is a tremendous donation, and I certainly recommend to the committee acceptance of both.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance for the donations.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much, and I'll bring the final donation amount to the committee to its next meeting.
Okay.
Now on to some difficult news. I tried to be a little funny in my memo here. After a workmanlike 45-year career, the generator at Shepherd Hill has reached the point where repairs no longer remain an option. As a result, we are facing a sizable cost for equipment that needs immediate replacement. Maintenance staff is in the process of soliciting a quote so that we kind of have an idea of which way we need to go in terms of bidding. We do have that now. The equipment cost alone is going to be around $42,000 plus installation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's clear based on those numbers that we will need to go out to a formal sealed bid process on this. We're still working out the exact specifications, but I expect to have this bid on the street within, certainly within 7 days of today, if not sooner. The key, again, is making sure that those specifications and that the replacement piece of equipment will do exactly what we want, not what the current generator's doing, which is really just the emergency lights. Given the timelines and given the need, we may need to look at a temporary trailer-mounted generator unit. The expected expense there may be as much as $8,000 monthly.
How long would you expect to have this rental?
I would think 2 months at the outside, assuming that, the bids come back are acceptable, et cetera, et cetera.
It could be 1 month,
Certainly
maybe
could be.
2. Highly unlikely to be more than 2.
And that's, I hate to say this, but that's assuming, given the circumstances in the South and in Texas, that we can procure and receive and get one. I know that the Dudley Fire Department was working with MEMA and FEMA to see if there was anything available through their resources, and there are not, as we're an alternate shelter for the town. So I request school committee to authorize the procurement of the replacement generator. I would recommend school choice be the funding source. As you saw in my FY17 closeout, given where we stood and given the need of this, I did take some money back into into school choice that we had planned to expend as part of the FY17 budget. So we do have a $50,000 nest egg, so to speak, towards the generator.
So
So-
I'll entertain a motion to authorize the procurement of a replacement generator with the school choice as the funding source. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Question, is this something that falls under capital expense that we would be looking for support from the towns for this?
The extraordinary maintenance number in the end-of-year report is around $100,000. So I don't, it doesn't get to there, but I think that's a very key question that we want to have conversations with our two towns about what number, should trigger that type of capital expense. Because to me, again, respecting the
Looking at a
states, $50,000 is, a sizable amount. That being said, if we had to wait for town meeting appropriation and approval, this would be a much more timely, or a much longer
And it
process.
would cost us more.
Well, we'd be spending more on the rental, that's for sure.
Rental. Anyone else here?
I was just gonna ask, bring up Senator Fappen, would this qualify for that? Because he's
No, it's
always
in-
offering that.
Yeah, I sent him a letter previously about a bus.
Yeah, did you ever- I know, did you ever hear from him?
Not yet.
Well, try again, do the
what's that?
generator, throw in the generator now.
I'll just send a few things.
Yeah,
and
keep
see what
sending, he'll
happens.
pick the one he likes best.
It's possible, but
I would put
the
it
issue
down.
with this is that it's so urgent now.
No,
you
but I mean,
know?
if you could reimburse us
Yeah,
afterwards.
maybe. I
Why
mean,
don't you try it?
I
He'll
will-
probably say, oh my God, what did
This guy,
Well, he-
this guy's killing me.
Well, he's the one that volunteered.
I know.
He told me.
I
didn't
have no
ask
problem
him.
I
reaching
was
out.
there.
I will certainly do that if the committee wants to.
I would say, ask him,
Absolutely.
he could reimburse us if we have to buy it on our own first.
Yeah, I want to just make sure, before we do a formal vote, that everybody's clear that the expense is going to exceed $50,000.
It certainly looks like it at this point, yes.
It's, if you're talking 42 for the unit, if it comes in at that, that's the quote that we have. And that's like just an estimate, The maintenance, or rather the installation can be at times as much as the equipment. It probably won't be, but I don't want to, have you expect it to be 50,000 and then it comes back much higher. It's going to be higher than that.
Just two questions. What is available in the school choice account?
We'll close FY17 with about 400,000.
Okay. I think my concern really is just, to your point earlier, the planning purposes in the budget. And I think acknowledging the fact that it is an older building and we're gonna probably get really big hits on things like this. I think that's just our planning process in FY19 we're not gonna be able to take these kinds of hits and find money for it.
You're right.
Agreed.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
I'll make a motion to ask, you need a motion for that?
I don't need a motion for
Okay.
that, I'll just do it.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
Back on June 1st, you said we could ask.
that's right.
Yep, I put that in the letter.
Yeah.
To give the committee an update on the Health Insurance Trust Fund, I'm pleased and able to report now with final numbers that barring any abnormal report for expenses that were incurred but not reported before June 30th, 2017, that the Health Insurance Trust Fund will be back in the black after 2 years of deficit balances.
And so does that mean that we're going to get our $200,000 that we couldn't touch for it?
The E&D will be certified without that reduction.
So we get $200,000.
I think it's important that this point doesn't come and go without thanking the school committee and the insurance advisory committee for really the DCTA as well, for just outstanding work in getting us to this point. Now, we all know that it's always an uncertain thing, and it's always in the back of our heads. But the work that all those people, including you, have done over the past few years to get us to this point is really remarkable.
And this is good
Yeah.
news.
Yeah, it is certainly good news. It really is a function, it's not a function of the revenues coming in, it's a function of the expenses going out. And whether it was just a fortunate year, or the move to Blue Cross Blue Shield really did help drive down those expenses that dramatically. Whatever the cause, I'm very happy with where we stand right now, and I think we're well-suited and well-situated to explore, other alternatives than just being self-insured. Not saying that that's necessarily the wrong thing, but eliminating that liability would stop the graying of at least my hair. I know that much. So I think that's something that, you know, will be on the table and that we'll need to take a look at as we go forward.
It is one of the most difficult things for us because it's so uncertain and you just never know what's around the next corner. We don't have full control over it, and when we don't have full control over it, that frustrates me, and I think it frustrates you too, so.
And the last piece, I included a cost center report for the FY17 general fund operations. As I stated in my memo, I tried to balance the use of the offset funding sources, preschool, school choice, and circuit breaker, with an eye to ensuring an appropriate balance in the E&D fund. So, you know, that's why I thought we were, given the circumstances with the generator, appropriate to put that into school choice to help offset that expense. And, you know, based on the conversation at our last meeting about the need for IAs, the same was done in circuit breaker to help fund those positions for this year. In the end, though, there were 2 cost centers that I'm asking for budget transfers on. The Heritage salaries were over by $2,276.99. I'm asking for a transfer from Heritage other expenses. And Shepherd Hill salaries ended in a deficit of $8,029.68. And I'm asking for a transfer from Shepherd Hill other expenses.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the transfers that Mr. Matthew just discussed with us.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much. And I anticipate that from just the general fund closeout, our E&D should increase by 1.2 million.
Oh.
So,
Well,
that's a,
I don't know if that needs an explanation. It's not, it's going to, because we've spent it all, it's going to be back to that, about that.
yeah, exactly. It'll
Right.
be replenished by
Which
the
is
amount
a
that we
good-
So
spent.
it's not gonna be 2.4 million, it's gonna
No.
be back to where it
Right,
was in the
right,
beginning of
right.
last year.
Yeah.
You
And
understand?
that, I understand that, but does that include that 200,000, or is it 1.4?
That's just from the general fund closeout.
So no, it
Oh,
It does
okay,
not.
it doesn't include it then. All right.
And when will we have the answer on that, like mid-October?
Yeah, I think probably for the second meeting, I'll be able to estimate what the E&D will be for the committee properly.
Okay.
And just one last note, a late handout, my apologies. We do have the asbestos notification that we will alert the community to. As the committee is well aware, we do have 2 schools where we do have asbestos currently. All of the schools are following the HERA plan. All have appropriate documentation, et cetera, and this notice will go home to the community within the next couple weeks as schools send their notices home.
Thank you. Next is review of district policies, and Elaine did ask for this to be on the agenda. So, Greg, did you want to say anything?
No,
to it?
not
No?
not yet, not yet,
yet.
not yet.
No one wants to.
Okay, Elaine.
I'll just, I brought it up because it was an issue that had been out in MASC, Mass Association of School Committees, has done an updated policy reference manual, which they always provide templates for school committees across the state to use to set their policies. So they've gone through and have done a lot of updating on their end. And I know that Mrs. Kabala, myself, and I'm not too sure which other.
Ray, you know Ray.
No, I think it was Ray.
Was Ray, and was under Mr. Gilrain's superintendency. It's been quite a
That
while
was
since we've
about
looked at.
5 years ago.
It was in
that-
2012 that we
doesn't-
sat down and went through it, and it
doesn't
had
s-
not been done for quite a long point in time at that point in time, so we did do a very thorough review of it, not looking to put too much more request of people's volunteer time to go through this again. I think it bears looking at trying to set up some kind of schedule that perhaps we look at trying to do this project over the course of time, and maybe look at doing 1 or 2 sections every couple of months and slowly work at doing this. So if we wanted to I would suggest maybe set up a policy subcommittee that could be, 1, 2, or 3 merry men, to just go through this. I think it's to our advantage to make sure that we're up to date.
And we could do it slowly because
Mhm.
we've got a lot of things on our plate right
Right.
now with the
Right.
override that we're gonna be really concentrating on, so what do you think?
Well, I like the idea of being incremental about it, for sure, because we, going into this year's strategic plan and override are my two big things, and, but, if we chip away at it, I think that makes sense.
Right. I think we could just kind of,
Set up-
if you want, I'm happy to kind of take a look at how many sections we have, and then maybe say if we were to do a section, every 6 to 8 weeks, it might take us a year to get through it, but we could get through it slowly and really just kind of focus on it. Some of the sections are very small, won't take us
Yeah,
long at all. I
sure.
know there were some that, might have 3 or 4 policies in it. I don't think it's
So
hard.
maybe you could set up the schedule and with
Take a look at
somebody
Yeah,
and-
be glad to. Does the committee want to form a subcommittee, or do you want to do a schedule first and do that later, or whatever?
No, I'll be honest, you wanna be honest?
Yeah.
So it's
I brought it
Elaine
up.
and, we'll ask Ray if he doesn't,
Either Ray or
who would
Joe.
like to be on it.
Really,
It's
I mean,
Elaine.
Ray can't do it, you only need 2 people,
We
really.
really, I think Catherine and I could do it. I think what we did the last time, just to refresh, and I know Mrs. Antossi and Mrs. Reed were not on it, is we sat down, we read through them to see whether or not
Yeah.
they were in sync or not in sync. A lot of them just were very easily,
Yeah.
just stated that they were
Right.
updated, and then the ones that we needed to
But if
look
a-
at.
Yeah, but if a third one wants to,
Right.
I'll ask Ray first, seeing he was on it. But if someone else is interested, it's going to be slowly, so
Right.
they're welcome to do it.
We can always look to see, MASC as a resource, for what's out there.
Okay.
We tried to keep it very simple, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
So it's Elaine and Kathy, so,
Got it.
okay. FY 2019 budget, Mr. Desto.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So I thought it wise, in advance of our joint meeting, which is this coming Tuesday, the 19th, right here, 6 PM, to at least just bring up some discussion and kind of give a preview of what I think we can anticipate for that night, and then, kind of open the door for the committee to throw out some questions or have some discussion in advance of that. First thing I'll say, some pretty good news is that I was informed by the town administrator yesterday that Charlton has decided to postpone their study of deregionalization. So that's good news for the time being. We can focus on the work at hand. As I said, the joint meeting is scheduled for next week, and what is going to be the focal point of that meeting is going to be Mark Abrams' report, which, as I said in my package, will explain a variety of things. But in the end, it's really just to say specifically how districts and towns are funded and why towns end up in the position that they're in. And while we all have a good general feel for why that is, some of the analysis that he's done is going to be very helpful to all of us. I've seen some of it. I sent you out a report about a week ago that it's not the final report, so he's made some changes from that point, and it's still not finalized. But basically, to me, the most important piece is going to be that using trends from the state, he's going to lay out 3 to 5 year projections of our Chapter 70 funding and likely assessments to our towns. In other words, what our towns are going to have to pay for minimum level contribution over the course of the next 3 years, even if we don't ask for a dime more. And some of those numbers are going to be eye-popping. So he's going to let us know the position our towns are going to be in as well, what position they'll be, what ability they'll have to pay because of the revenue that they're likely to gain over the next 3 years as well. So those two pieces of information kind of gel nicely into, to give us a more advanced notice of what we should be looking at than we've had in the past. What we are going to learn that is not new is that without additional revenue, both our towns and our district will have to downsize significantly. And so we really do need to work together toward this. With that in mind, I'm asking tonight for the committee's authorization to pay $1,500 to Mr. Abrams. This this study was commissioned by the town of Charlton, the Board of Selectmen. And they've paid him a significant number of dollars to do an analysis. And we got together to look at his report. I don't know what, that was the last week of the summer, maybe? The first week of school?
31st?
31st. And based on that meeting, further analysis was done. And that's the part that I think it's fair and equitable if we show good faith and pay for, because that's the part that's gonna really be helpful to us. So I'm looking for that, but more importantly tonight, looking for any questions or discussion in advance of our meeting on Tuesday. This is as early as we've talked about next year's budget, but I think we have to do this.
I was listening to the selectmen's meeting, and they would like that televised. Can we get that done?
I had already thought of that,
Okay,
yes.
that's
I haven't
good.
told Mr. Earl, but I have already planned that we would be able to do that.
Because they asked that.
I'm glad they want to, too. See, we agree already.
Step one.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, I will entertain a motion to approve $1,500 salary to hire Mr. Abrams.
I have questions. I don't know if you want to ask them now or ask.
Well, during discussion, we'll see if we get a second on this. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, discussion, Elaine.
So some questions that I have just regarding your comment. So is the need for the further study coming from questions that were raised by the two towns or questions that were raised by the district?
All of us,
Okay,
yeah.
so,
It was like when we opened one door, and then 10 more doors opened.
okay. Has the report that we requested that Mars prepare for us been shared with the district, with the two towns?
Yes.
So in looking at them, that particular report does take care of free cash and stabilization issues. So that to me looked like a question that's already been answered. What did that report not answer that we're looking for Mr. Abrams to do?
The biggest thing has been the projecting things out over the course of 3 to 5 years and what are likely to look for, because I think that's maybe the most important information for us going into this.
Help me understand how the projection piece, if we're, I guess my issue is that we authored a study that was only $1,000, which was much more thorough, and some of the questions were answered. To repeat some of that work for the $1,500 just seems to me a duplication of some effort. So if we're looking at projection, how in the scheme of being at the mercy of what the state has available for money and what they deem appropriate, and what happens with real estate and income trends for the next couple of years, I'm at a loss as to how much this investment is going to provide us with information. Is it, I don't know, is it more to provide the town some number that could be tangible? My fear is that we're going to turn around and we're going to invest money in an analysis that's conjecture. And if we turn around and put a 2 to 3%, 5% estimation of what's going to happen, and all of a sudden the expectation on the part of the towns is 5 to 10, we've set a false expectation for them as to where the direction that we're going. I guess that's my point. Some of the information to me seemed that we already had it at hand, and I'm trying to figure out why we're still looking for the same question to be answered.
Well, I think in its totality, the report is more thorough than the Mars report. And a lot of, even if we don't even look at what was done in addition, starting on the 31st, what was done and paid for by the town of Charlton was very, very helpful to us. I think we can share that. So as far as projections are concerned, the Chapter 70, we could probably do that, because we get about, an extra $25 to $50 per student, it seems as though, every year since I've been paying attention to it. So that part is less difficult. The hardest part and the part that differs is the part about projecting the likelihood of the wealth, how the wealth formula is going to hit. I don't, well, how is it all calculated? It's property valuations, income, there's a whole formula, that part of it, how that hits the towns, and being able to project that based on really high likelihood, I think that's incredibly helpful information. So that part of it is more thorough than what we've seen in the past. And in its, like I said, in its totality, the report is extremely detailed, maybe to the point we worried it might be too much for everybody on the 19th. But all in all, because of how helpful this is for our district, Mr. Matthew and I felt like it was a fair thing to do for us to pick up a small percentage of the tab on this.
So my
because it's
question was,
helpful.
when Charlton paid $3,500, are we now taking $1,500 of that? They're only gonna pay $2,000, is this an
No.
extra $1,500?
It's
So he's
additional
gonna get
$1,500.
$5,000, he's gonna
So-
get $5,000 then?
Correct.
So what if we don't pay that, what happens?
I don't know.
So you're offering to
No,
pay him?
no, they have already
So-
made that deal with him.
Why- I know, but then why are we offering to pay him extra? I'm just asking, I'm throwing that question out. If he's not asking for $1,500 more, is he?
He's already been
He's been
hired
paid.
by the town
He's
to
been
do
paid,
that. So
right.
we're basically what the town is asking us is to pick up a piece
Oh,
of
so
the
the
bill for
town
the
actually
report.
asked us?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I
That's
thought,
what-
the way I
yeah.
read it, it sounded like you were making the odd gesture.
No, we were asked if we would consider picking up that portion of the
Okay,
$1,500
okay, that's different. I
out
thought
of the
this was,
$5,000 bill.
I thought you were adding
Yeah,
1,500.
no promise has been made, but,
Okay.
you know, our recommendation is that it's a good faith.
So they'll
thing
pay
to say.
2,000, we pay 1,500.
And
is that-
we're-
No, they would pay 3,500 and we would pay 1,500.
The bill is
But it
5,000.
doesn't say that. It says, there's no mention of a bill here. It just says that Charlton has paid 3,500.
To this point,
Okay, and then the 1,500, if we didn't pay this 1,500, what would happen?
I suppose the town would have to pay.
But we're in it together.
No, I'm not questioning that. I'm just, the way I read it, I thought we were taking part of the 30, we're giving him an extra, he's making 5,000.
That's correct.
Okay, that's not how I
Yes.
read it. That's why I thought it was.
And his contract
You read it that way
with the
'cause I wrote it
town.
that way.
Yeah.
Okay.
His contract with the town is 5,000
That's correct.
evidently.
That's correct.
Oh, see, I didn't realize that. I
Yep.
see, it says they pay 3,500, so they owe him
That's what
1,500.
they've paid to this point,
They
but
owe him
they've hired him for
1,500,
another 1,500.
so we should pay the 50. I don't see any problem with that
Yeah.
for what we're getting, but I just, I didn't understand the figures.
Anyone else? Before we take a vote on it. Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I think it's to our benefit, and I personally would like to ask this as a school committee member of a regional school, that we ask Steve Henman from Mars to attend the meeting on the 19th. He is a person that's extremely well-versed, has served as a superintendent, a school business administrator, and a municipal business administrator. I certainly don't, want to miss an opportunity that somebody that can be speaking to the uniqueness of regional schools and is our representative, to not be there. It's his consulting group that did our report. I think the information in it was extremely valuable, and really talked about the town's capacity paying going forward, which has been an issue of missed information and miscommunication. And I think it's important to have that particular voice at the table, not just a business official voice coming through. I think it's important to be looking at the educational element to what it is that we're sitting down and talking about. It's not just numbers, it's the education of students. I think that voice should be at the table.
Good idea.
Glad to invite him.
That
And the
makes sense.
selectmen mentioned that at Dudley's meeting, that they would like someone who could explain the formula and all, that he would
Yeah.
probably be the best to do all that.
I think Steve would be the best person to do it. He's the person
The
that does all the
funding
training.
Yeah, how it all works and everything.
I think Mr. Abrams is gonna do a very,
He can
very
do
good
that,
job
too.
of that. But Steve's perspective, because regionals are unique.
Right.
They're extremely unique.
Right, and so I'll invite him for certain. Does he have anybody who, like, could go in his place if he can't make it?
Yeah, I think the team, the people that wrote the report
Okay.
would certainly come if Steve wasn't available. But there's several people on the consulting group from Mars. I'm sure that somebody could attend.
Okay.
Is Chris Horan coming too?
Yes, he's also gonna attend.
Stephanie.
Where is the 1,500 that we're gonna give to the town of Charlton, coming from?
That's a good question, Mr. Matthew.
It would be school committee expenses.
See, we don't,
use
See what
that.
Comes out of your pay, right?
My negative numbers.
Okay. And we took a vote on it, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we're all set. That brings us up to consideration of requests for home instruction, policy IHBG. Mr. Desto.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. I have 3 requests. They're all renewals, and upon reviewing them, I recommend the approval of the committee.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the recommendations for the home request.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Consideration of requests for non-resident enrollment, policy JF. Mr. Desto.
Thank you. Here again, I have 3 requests, all of which fall into the same category. All 3 families, 1 in Charlton, 2 in Dudley, are in the process of building homes that are anticipated should be completed by the end of September. So I have told the parents to start the kids in school with the understanding, after reviewing the paperwork, with the understanding that it wouldn't be official until the committee says it was. But I thought it was the right thing to do for the kids to let them start on time.
It should be 4, I think, right?
Here,
Because we got next
did
one
you add
tonight.
one this evening?
Oh, okay, we added one this evening.
So I will entertain a motion to approve the non-resident enrollment request.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. That brings us up to consideration of request for overnight travel, policy IJOA. Mr. Desto?
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin, and I have 3 requests from the Shepherd Hill Music Department. I guess I'll take them one at a time. The first request is from the Shepherd Hill Show Choir to travel to Oliver Ames High School in northeastern Mass. That is November 10th and 11th. Remember, the 10th, this year, the 11th is on a Saturday, so the 10th is a no-school day. The cost to students is $105 per student. There'll be 95 students and 10 chaperones, and the names of the chaperones are TBA at this point.
Right.
But I recommend your approval. This is a show that they've gone to for several years now.
So
Okay.
moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you. The second request is for the Shepherd Hill Band to travel on the same weekend to East Rutherford, New Jersey, and there could only be one reason to go to East Rutherford, New Jersey, and that is to perform at Giant Stadium. And this is the one that they go to every year and that they won the national title a couple years back. So, again, there'll be no days of school missed, 46 students, 8 chaperones, and I do recommend your approval.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Kathy?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion carries, it's unanimous. Now, aren't we supposed to vote for the paying of these chaperones?
Yes, and we can do that as well. It's just that I don't have the specific names.
Oh,
Is that
okay.
so?
No, it doesn't matter about
Okay.
the names.
All right, so.
But you don't have to do it yet. You've got a third one first
Right.
overnight, and
Yeah.
then we'll do it.
All right. So the last request I have tonight is from the Shepherd Hill Show Choir as well, and this is for their trip to Fairfield, Ohio. This is March 15th through 18th to compete in the Fairfield Crystal Classic Show. This is all the heavyweights from the nation are at this show, and it's got a tremendous value to our kids. It is, this does require 2 days of missed school, Thursday and Friday, March 15th and 16th, 110 students traveling, and 10 chaperones, names to be determined later.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, Elaine.
Question, just, and the timing is that going to impact any students as far as MCAS or park testing in March?
I don't believe it will impact anybody at the high school level. It will not. Bill's shaking his head back there. The middle school starts testing like the week after that, but the high school is a little later.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
We probably can take all the chaperones together and vote for.
I would think so. And if you want, I can provide you with the names as soon as they're available. It's up to the committee if you want me to do that.
Do you want to wait to do that, or do you want to do it this evening?
I'd wait, because it's not for a long time.
Okay,
Well, the November one,
November
we
one.
have a couple of meetings coming up if
Yeah.
you wanna
I'd
wait.
wait, I'd rather see the names than.
Okay.
Okay,
It's the funding that
Right.
we're voting
Right.
for.
and the ability to go.
And the ability to go. Okay, so we'll wait on that. Next meeting dates, school committee, Wednesday, September 27th, and that will be at the Charlton Middle School, 7 PM. Wednesday, October 11th, and that will be here at Shepherd Hill at 7 PM. Budget and Finance Subcommittee, Thursday, September 21st, District Office at 9 AM. Wage and Benefits Subcommittee, nurse negotiations, that will to be announced. Joint Financial Meeting is Tuesday, September 19th, 6 PM, and that will be here at Shepherd Hill Regional High School.
So Corinne, I'd like to add one meeting to
Okay.
that, if we didn't have enough meetings,
Yeah.
which is also a public meeting. I've invited all school committee members to the strategic planning meeting on September 28th.
Yeah.
And that'll be here at Shepherd Hill at 3:30 PM.
Okay.
Did we decide on that subcommittee? Because we made I don't know, Mrs. Antoshi wanted to be, remember we, up in the air, how many would be actually on the committee?
Yeah, so we had I believe.
No, I wasn't, it was
Okay.
Joe and
It was Joe and Elaine.
Mary if she
And-
wanted, and
Mary.
Stephanie if she wanted to.
Did you want to be?
Yeah, are you interested in?
The
Okay.
budget, yeah.
So probably
And it
after the
was
first meeting, they'll be the ones
Stephanie?
who represent us.
Right, I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to do it with it being that time, if it was during the day, I probably could.
Well, here's how it's gonna shake out, is that the first two meetings, we're inviting everybody.
Right.
Once we break into the smaller groups, even if two of you are on one group, it's not a quorum,
Right,
right? So,
You're talking about the strategic now.
correct.
right.
But what were they talking about? The
Same
strategic?
thing, but the
Oh,
first
okay.
thing, everyone's gonna go, but then when it breaks into groups, it's only like 2 or 3 of us.
It'll be one or two people
Yeah.
in each group from the committee.
So,
Okay, so it's
Yeah,
Mary and
I can do
Elaine,
that.
and Stephanie's up in the air.
but Joe said he wanted to be too, remember?
Okay.
If it wasn't during the day.
I spoke to Joe last week, he still wants to be a part of
Okay,
it.
there's
so we've
3.
got 3. Okay. And that brings us to future agenda items, FY 2018 budget. We've got the strategic plan, we've got the school calendar. Who else wants to contribute?
Question on timing on the coordinated program review for special education, is that report in?
Not the
And-
final report, no.
Not the final report? Okay. Can we bring up the topic of the CPAC at a future meeting,
Can
please?
bring it up, yep. And also the policy, I'll have, like a suggested timeline for that.
Okay, good. And anyone else?
And sometime in October, we should probably talk about the voting for the mass conference.
Okay.
Didn't you get elected delegate?
Yes, but you have to tell me how you want me to
Oh,
vote.
sorry.
Anyone
Or I might
else?
run rampant.
Do what you want.
We'll never know, we'll never know.
I have a text from Ray.
Any, that's it, okay. So, at this time, we're going to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation or collective bargaining if an open session may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, only to reconvene to take votes if needed and adjournment. Okay, I'll take a roll call now. Kathy? Yes. Mia? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Bill,
now we're in executive session.
am I going